walk into the presence of the tree, it pulls you in, and it makes you know that you're walking into its presence.
It's a very tangible and visceral physical experience being here, being able to feel the sun on your skin, being able to breathe in a fresher air that isn't being polluted by the cars.
Laura Jepson was an FSU professor here in Tallahassee. She arrived in Tallahassee in 1946. She was a very reclusive person. She'd suffered some form of tragedy earlier in her life that led her to become a solitary person as she grew older. Laura created this structure to be a companion to the tree and to be an expression of her own ideas of what an ideal home should be. From the moment that it was first built, Laura called it Lichgate, and she chose that name very specifically for the connotations that it had of a transition point between two places, two times.
Lichgate is an old English term, and it literally means a corpse gate. So back in the old days, when the coffin bearers actually carried the coffins from the church to the cemetery, a lot of times they would stop and rest at the gate and meet the priest there. So it became known as a passageway between worlds, between the world of the living and the world of the dead.
The actual Lichgate is located behind the cottage. It was intentionally built with a step so that when you enter it from the yard, you're required to step up, and it's a fairly high step. And that step is at the transition point, is at the boundary between what she would have thought of as the land of the living and land of the dead. She intentionally meant for you to stop and acknowledge, I'm leaving one world and entering another, and I'm returning to that world when I come home. Laura was a transcendentalist, and a part of that philosophy is that she would have believed that there was a part of God in every living thing. And the more of those things that you could surround yourself with, the more in touch you were with divinity and with the divine. People visit this property frequently that are experiencing trauma in their life or loss or looking for solace or comfort. I mean, the same reason people come today is the same reason she first came.
My son, Maury Owens, was a really individual person, and he was a people's person. There wasn't anyone who didn't like him. I'm deeply grateful that I had the memory of that day when Maury said, "Mom, there's a place you have to see," called Lichgate. He's been gone 8 years, and this labyrinth is the place where I know I remember Maury. The stone itself winds in a circular pattern to the center, just like you walk to the center. There's no particular way to do a labyrinth. You enter with a sense of perhaps a need, and you look for some kind of guidance, and you may believe that that guidance comes from outside yourself, but it will come through yourself. Walking a labyrinth is walking a path. It can represent a path of life, and it can represent a path of personal development, and it can represent how you want to grow closer to God. I've grown a lot since this labyrinth was created in slowing down more and more to enjoy the walk of life.
I have had a deep love for the Lichgate ever since I came across it. I felt like there was a sort of a sense of walking into a dream by coming here. Well, there's something interesting even on the tree itself. It's at least 300 years old. So it's witnessed all these lifetimes as people have come and gone. We've had all this change happen and growth in this town. But so many lives have passed on, including Laura Jepson's herself. The land is what attracted Laura here. It was the tree itself. And we come here to be restored. And we come here because the life is so beautiful, so renewing. It actually helps us processing death. Here, death isn't intimidating. It's not frightening. It's sort of a loving reverence. There's actually a sense of being able to be connected to your loved ones. It's not about fears, it's about acceptance. Here, this is where I found strength and kind of courage to face things. If I felt overwhelmed, I could come here and let things rest in this tree, in the space of this tree. There's just this natural gravity towards it. And there's such a feeling of love. There's definitely a motherly feeling for me in the sense of peace you get from just being here with this tree.
Lichgate represents to me an incredible opportunity for a space where people can come together and find community and be grateful for one another and for the space that we live in together, and to recognize how important it is to save the land and resources that we do have left, the natural beauty that we do have left in the world, to be able to preserve it and to keep it safe and hold it to be sacred. It is so easy to drive right past Lichgate and not even take a second look. But Lichgate has this uncanny ability for attracting people who need healing. Even if there's nobody else here, it is so easy to feel loved here. There's just connection with self and connection with a higher power that allows for love to just flow freely.
This is a place that we preserve for people that we haven't met yet, people that aren't even born yet. And we preserve the memory of those that we never met and people that died before we were aware of it.
I wish that every time I came here, I could say, my son walks with me. I'm not sure that that's true, but it's more possible right here than anywhere else I ever was with him. This is the Lichgate.